Welcome back to Life Stories Network, dear friends. I'm so glad you're here today because what I'm about to share with you is not just a story of family, inheritance, and shocking discoveries. It's a journey through heartbreak, betrayal, and an unexpected twist that changed my life forever. I grew up believing family was about love and fairness, but the day my parents passed and their will was revealed, I realized how wrong I was. My sister walked away with a brand new mansion worth $750,000, while I was left with nothing more than an old, broken cabin that looked ready to collapse with the next strong wind. At that moment, I felt like my parents had spoken their final words without even opening their mouths. "You were never enough." The humiliation burned, and the pain ran deep, because I had dedicated my whole life to making them proud. Yet, all my sister had to do was show up, and she was rewarded like a queen. I still remember the look on her face when the lawyer read the will. My sister smirked, almost like she had known all along what she was getting. She didn't even glance at me, didn't care about how unfair it felt. She hugged the keys to her new mansion, tears of fake gratitude in her eyes, while I stared down at the dusty folder holding the papers to my so-called inheritance, that broken cabin. My hands trembled, and my throat felt like it was closing in on me. How could the same parents who taught me about honesty and hard work turn around and show such favoritism? I wanted to scream, to ask why. But no words came out. I just sat there in silence, feeling like the invisible child, the one who never mattered. When I first drove out to see the cabin, I nearly broke down. The roof sagged on one side, boards were missing from the porch, and weeds taller than my waist swallowed the front steps. The air smelled of mold and abandonment. Inside, the floors creaked, and the wallpaper peeled like old skin. There was no electricity, no running water, and no sign that anyone had cared for this place in decades. I dropped my head into my hands and thought, this is it? This is all they thought I was worth? My sister, meanwhile, was posting pictures on social media, flaunting her mansion's grand staircase and marble countertops. Friends congratulated her, while no one even asked me what I got. That kind of silence cuts deeper than words ever could. Nights in the cabin were the hardest. I'd lay on a torn mattress with holes in the ceiling letting the moonlight pour in, thinking about all the family dinners where my sister's achievements were celebrated while mine were ignored. It was as if the cabin was just a physical reflection of how I had always been treated, broken, forgotten, and unworthy. I wanted to walk away, to sell it for whatever scraps I could get and never look back. But something in my gut told me not to give up just yet. Maybe it was anger, maybe desperation, but I knew I had to search every corner of that place. Because life had taught me one thing: sometimes the ugliest things hide the deepest secrets. One rainy afternoon, I grabbed a flashlight and started exploring the attic. Dust swirled around me with every step, and cobwebs brushed against my face. The air was heavy, suffocating, and the wooden beams groaned above me. Just when I was about to give up, my foot hit something hollow beneath the floorboards. My heart skipped. I knelt down, pushed aside the debris, and pulled at the loose planks. Beneath them was a small, rusted metal box, locked tight but begging to be opened. My hands shook as I pried it open with a crowbar, and when the lid finally gave way, my eyes widened. Inside, stacks of old envelopes, bonds, and certificates glistened under the weak beam of my flashlight. Each document represented wealth beyond anything I had ever imagined. And when I added up their worth later, my jaw nearly hit the ground. $80 million. 80 million. Hidden, in a cabin everyone thought was worthless. I collapsed onto the dusty floor, clutching those papers against my chest, tears streaming down my face. It wasn't just about the money. It was about the truth. My parents hadn't abandoned me after all. They had hidden something precious in plain sight, something meant only for me if I had the courage to look deeper. Suddenly, all those nights of feeling invisible, all those years of being overlooked, started to make sense. Maybe my parents knew my sister would have flaunted her wealth, wasted it, or destroyed it. But me? They trusted me to find the real legacy. They trusted me with the secret that would one day change everything. When I finally walked out of that cabin holding proof of $80 million, the air felt different. The broken wood and rotting walls didn't look like a curse anymore, they looked like a test, one I had just passed. My heart swelled with both pain and pride. Pain for the years I felt unwanted, but pride because I had uncovered something no one else could. And in that moment, I made a promise to myself, I would never let bitterness consume me. I wouldn't flaunt this money to prove a point. Instead, I'd use it to build the kind of life where love, kindness, and fairness actually mattered. Because in the end, the mansion my sister got was just stone and glass. But what I had found was so much more than money. It was a lesson, a legacy, and a chance to rewrite my story. The next chapter of my life began the moment I held that box of papers close to my chest, but destiny wasn't done testing me. When I left the cabin that evening, the storm had cleared, and the sky opened wide like it was blessing me. My car was parked just outside the weeds, and as I sat inside, I couldn't stop shaking. Not from fear, but from the weight of what I had discovered. $80 million wasn't just wealth, it was power, responsibility, and the kind of secret that could either heal or destroy a family already hanging by a thread. I kept asking myself, should I tell my sister? Should I let her know that the broken cabin she mocked me for was worth more than 10 of her mansions combined? But deep down, I already knew her reaction would not be gratitude, it would be greed. And greed has a way of burning bridges that can never be rebuilt. When I got back to town, my phone was already buzzing with messages from my sister. Photos of her mansion, her pool, her shiny new car, all set with captions like, "Wish you could see this." She didn't even ask how I was doing. It was like she wanted to rub my nose in her good fortune. Every time I saw those messages, my grip tightened around the secret in my backpack. She thought she had one. She thought I had been left with nothing. And the irony of it all made my chest ache. I didn't respond right away. I needed time. Time to think, to plan, and most importantly, to decide who I wanted to be now that my life had changed in an instant. Days turned into nights, and I spent every free moment in that cabin, carefully cataloging the documents. There were bonds from decades ago, land deeds hidden in between, and even foreign accounts worth unimaginable amounts. My parents weren't just ordinary people, they had built an empire quietly, without ever showing it. And then they left it in a place no one would suspect. I wondered if they wanted me to learn patience, resilience, or maybe even the courage to look beyond appearances. Because if they had handed me a mansion, I might have taken it for granted, just like my sister did. But by forcing me to step into what looked like abandonment, they actually pushed me toward discovery. That realization softened my anger, even as it made me miss them more. Eventually, though, silence couldn't last forever. My sister came knocking at the cabin one bright afternoon, her luxury SUV parked proudly in the dirt. She stepped out wearing designer clothes, heels sinking into the mud, and looked around with disgust. "So this is what you got," she sneered, her voice dripping with fake pity. "I don't even know why you're wasting your time here. Just sell it and move on with your life. You'll never catch up to me." Her words sliced through me, but I kept my face calm. Because if she had any idea what was hidden inside, she would have clawed through the walls with her bare hands. That was the first moment I understood the true meaning of power. Sometimes it's not about showing what you have, but about knowing when to stay silent. As the weeks passed, I watched her mansion life unfold from afar. She threw parties that lit up the night sky, entertained friends who barely knew her, and spent her inheritance faster than water slipping through her hands. Meanwhile, I poured myself into restoring the cabin, board by board, nail by nail. With every repair, it felt like I was piecing together my own broken spirit. People in town began to notice the transformation. Some offered to help, while others simply admired how the forgotten place was slowly coming alive again. I found strength in the work, and peace in the silence. It was no longer just a cabin, it was my sanctuary, the place where I had found the truest gift of all. But secrets have a way of revealing themselves. One evening, as I was repainting the porch, my sister drove up again, this time with curiosity in her eyes. She noticed the changes, the glow of the new windows, the way the land seemed to breathe again. "You're really fixing this place up," she said, her tone softer but suspicious. "Why bother with something so worthless?" I smiled faintly, hiding the storm inside me. She didn't know, and I wasn't ready to tell her. But in that moment, I realized the biggest twist of all. While she thought she had been given the better gift, I was the one who had received the true inheritance. Not just the money, but the lesson, the resilience, and the chance to live a life built on my own terms. Still, the question haunted me every night as I lay in that cabin, now slowly turning into a home. How long could I keep the secret? And when the day came that she found out, what would happen to the fragile thread still tying us together as siblings? The day the secret finally broke open came sooner than I expected. I had been carefully balancing two lives, one where I appeared to be the poor sibling stuck with a useless cabin, and another where I quietly held documents worth $80 million, a fortune so vast it could change not just my life, but generations after me. But secrets have a way of slipping through cracks. My sister arrived unannounced one evening, her face tight with frustration. "The bills are piling up," she confessed, pacing my porch. "The taxes on the mansion, the upkeep, it's not what I thought it would be." She looked at me with narrowed eyes, then around the cabin that now looked surprisingly beautiful after months of my restoration. "How are you even managing to fix this place up? You don't have money." Her suspicion was like a knife pressed to my chest, and I knew that soon, the truth would demand to be spoken. I tried to deflect. "Hard work goes a long way," I said with a shrug, brushing sawdust from my shirt. But she wasn't convinced. She stormed inside, eyes scanning every corner. Then she stopped at the attic stairs. My heart raced. Before I could stop her, she climbed up, heels pounding against the wooden steps. I followed close behind, but it was too late. She pulled aside the loose boards I had forgotten to nail back, and there it was, the metal box, gleaming faintly in the dim light. Her eyes widened, her jaw dropped, and in that instant, I saw greed flare brighter than any emotion I had ever seen in her before. "What is this?" she whispered, but her trembling hands already answered the question. She saw the bonds, the deeds, the numbers written across certificates that spelled out a fortune beyond her wildest dreams. The silence that followed was deafening. She turned to me, her voice sharp and accusing. "You've been hiding this from me? $80 million? Do you have any idea what this could have done for me?" Her words pierced me, because even in the face of so much wealth, she could only think of herself. I stood tall, fighting back tears. "This wasn't meant for you," I said softly but firmly. "Mom and Dad left you what you wanted, a mansion, something shiny to show off. But this? They left this for me. Maybe because they knew I'd respect it, not waste it." My sister's face twisted with rage, her nails digging into the papers like claws. For a moment, I thought she might actually tear them apart. She broke down, screaming about fairness, about how she was the favorite, how she had always been promised more. "You don't deserve this," she cried, her voice cracking. And that was the moment everything came full circle. For years, I had believed I was the one overlooked, unloved, and unworthy. But standing there, watching her unravel, I realized the truth. My parents hadn't punished me by giving me the cabin. They had trusted me with their legacy. They saw something in me that my sister couldn't understand: humility, patience, and strength. And in that attic, for the first time, I wasn't the invisible child anymore. I was the one chosen. Tears burned my eyes as I gently closed the box and pulled it away from her. "This isn't about money," I whispered. "It's about trust. They trusted me, not you. And maybe it's because they knew you'd never see the real value in it." She collapsed onto the floor, sobbing, her pride shattered by the realization that her mansion, once a symbol of victory, was nothing compared to what she had dismissed as worthless. The broken cabin had turned out to be a treasure chest, and she had walked right past it. Her tears weren't just about the money, they were about the truth that she had lost something she could never get back: our parents' faith. In the weeks that followed, she avoided me. The mansion that once buzzed with parties grew quiet, while my cabin, slowly restored, became a place of warmth, laughter, and new beginnings. Friends gathered there, neighbors dropped by, and I invested not in luxury, but in people, in kindness, in opportunities for those who needed it most. The money was powerful, yes, but the real power was in the lesson. Life is not about what looks valuable on the surface. Sometimes, the true treasures are hidden in the most broken, forgotten places, waiting for those willing to look deeper. And so, I learned to forgive, not because my sister deserved it, but because I deserved peace. The mansion, the envy, the comparisons, none of it mattered anymore. What mattered was that I had finally found my worth, not in their approval, but in my own journey. My parents had left me the greatest gift of all, not just $80 million, but the reminder that love, patience, and humility will always outlast greed, pride, and stone walls. And as I sit on the porch of what was once a broken cabin, now a home filled with hope, I know this: I was never forgotten. I was chosen.